and it's my distinct privilege to welcome all of you to this very special occasion. We're here today to recognize and honor Mr. John C. Woodruff on the occasion of his retirement, culminating 34 years of distinguished federal service to the nation. We're pleased to welcome John's wife, Kathryn, their children, Alex and Celia, John's brothers, Larry and Wayne, and their wives, Kathleen and Deborah. We also extend a warm welcome to those division chiefs, mission partners, friends, and co-workers. Officiating today's ceremony is Dr. Ryan Durante, Chief, Information Handling Branch, Information Directorate, Air Force Research Laboratory. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and for the posting of the colors and playing of our national anthem.
Honor guard, post the colors.
Forward. Forward. Arch. Colors. Halt. Present. Arms. Forward. Arms. Post. Post. Colors. Forward. March.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. At this time, Dr. Durante would like to say a few comments.
Isn't really a speech, I'm reading just a couple of notes I didn't want to forget. First of all, I was honored and humbled to be asked to do this, to officiate the ceremony. It could have been anybody. John could have asked anyone, so it's not automatic because I'm the branch chief or anything. Thank you. You know, when I think back of the 17 years you've been here, there's a few things that stand out about John, especially if you've worked with him a lot. One is the passion for his job. I don't know anybody more dedicated and passionate about his job than John. You know, I don't know if John brings a lot of his job home or not, or maybe over the last year with him working from home, you've heard him getting riled up or excited. It's because of the passion for the job. It's because he cares about what he does. There's some folks that are you can't ruffle them at all, but people just don't particularly care a lot about what they do. That's not the case with John. He's got this old school work ethic. I call it, maybe because I'm getting up there myself, but having been raised, I won't say on a farm, we didn't own the farm, but I worked on a farm because I lived next to my home. So having been raised on the farm, you can recognize somebody else that's been raised on a farm. You just can't, from the work ethic. And it always stood out with John because there was always, when you do this job in acquisitions in particular, there is usually more often than not an easy way and then the right way to do it. And John, to my knowledge, in the 17 years, never took the easy way out. He always did it the right way, which was always the hard way. And it comes down to really, it takes the courage of your convictions and moral courage. And what do I mean by that? We're not here, we're not in uniform, we don't run out in front of bullets and whatnot, but you are tested every day from an ethical standpoint on this job. And John never failed the test. Always did the right thing. We have these values in the Air Force, if you will. One is about integrity first, and John is certainly a person of integrity, courage, and conviction, as I mentioned. I really just can't think of a better example that I've seen in my time. Service before self. An airman's professional duties take precedent over their personal desires. I don't know how many birthdays or anniversaries, or maybe I shouldn't be bringing this up, that you have over the years, or other firsts, perhaps with your children because you were TDY, God knows where. I mean, we always hear about those TDYs. Oh, you're going to Hawaii, really? Okay. But for every one of those, there's about a dozen to Warner Robins, Georgia, or something. It's not all that exciting. Let's just put it that way. I want to tell a couple, one or two stories about when John came in here, or not long after he came in. Of course, he was running the ISI Guard program for a little bit. But at that point, we broke the branch into sections. I wanted to become a section chief, and I needed somebody to run the program at the time. It was still called DTW, right? Dotus Trust Workstation. It was a program we're executing for DIA. And so in moving up to section chief, I just created my first problem. I needed someone to run my old program. Well, John had the distinct honor of running his boss's old program. Let's just think about that. I mean, that's just a lousy position to be in, right? So now you got your boss, over your shoulder, what you doing, right? And it is, and it's hard to let go of these things because these programs are almost like children, right? You raise them up, and it's very hard to let go sometimes. And that said, not only that, but I think the program was, put this lightly, a disaster when I handed it to you. I mean, I don't like to think I made it a disaster, but through happenstance and circumstance, the program was not in good shape from a funding perspective. The customer was royally pissed off, that being DIA. So that was tough. That was tough. Now, all I know is he ran that program another 10 years before you finally sunset it. And the only reason we sunset it is that Sun Microsystems stopped making the hardware that we were using for it. And even then, people still ran it for, I think, years after that. And when I say customers, I'm talking the U.S. Secret Service, DIA, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. We're all running this stuff. So, as that program wound down, we got a call for something else. So OD and I called us up again, and they had a problem. They had lost something in Pakistan, and eventually we killed it, dumped it in the ocean, but they needed help finding it. And there are about 14 different intel agencies all trying to collaborate, but none of them trusted computers, because they had all just very recently gotten burned by Robert Hansen. You remember that. So you had these standalone, some people had computers, but they were standalone. They weren't connected to anything. Other people just had notepads they would write down, and they would run around the beltway with secure satchels, or they would use secure fax, because they didn't trust the computers and networks. So they came up with this program called IC3E, Intelligence Community Compartmented Environment. Now that program, that was the original, that was classified for a very short amount of time. So we came up with a cover name Secure View for the client side. And that is what John ended up taking over very early in its career. And once again, that was another turd-filled cookie. I think I handed off here. So there were about 300 clients. So it's supposed to be about 500 users. The entire IC that were even read into this program because of the sensitivity of it. I think there were about 300 fielded, and once the thing got dumped in the ocean, they started, of course, questioning the need for the program anymore and whatnot. And then the funding drills began. So there was no money. There were only 300 workstations when I handed it to John. And so what, 10 years later, it's 21. So about 10 years later, I think you've grown it to 17,000 workstations across 70 something, close to 100 unique sites. And at this point, it's all but a self-sustaining program just from the sustainment fees. Now, and I got to tell you, in both cases there, John was my fourth or fifth choice, actually. No, he was the first guy. Everybody else turned me down. No, he was my first choice in both those cases. And I can't tell you, when you have programs of that visibility and high priority, high visibility, and you're getting a lot of heat and light, to turn that over. And not once did I look back. I might have seen it a different way, like always leaning over his shoulder, but I knew he had it. He is a consummate professional. And he had the stick, and I didn't need to be concerned, which was really a huge relief. Follow on, the successor, John Eileen, will be taking over John's programs. She has some huge shoes to fill. I don't envy her. I'm sure she's going to do great, but the point is, you will be missed. You've taught me an enormous amount in your tenure here. Even today, you taught me, well, at least the ceremony taught me to bring a damn umbrella to work when you have to dress and walk between two buildings. But, seriously, it's been an honor and a privilege working with you. I can't thank you enough, and I wish you the best in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durante. Please stand for the presentation of the Outstanding Civilian Career Service Award. Citation to accompany the Outstanding Civilian Career Service Award to Mr. John C. Woodruff. In recognition of his distinguished performance in support of the United States Air Force from 15 June 1987 to 30 June 2021, most notably as Secure View Program Manager, Information Directorate, Air Force Research Laboratory, Rome, New York. Throughout his career, Mr. Woodruff demonstrated superior performance in his engineering skills, leadership, and dedicated mission focus in support of the information support server environment and the Secure View programs. His tireless attention to detail contributed significantly to the success of each program and the mission site that utilized the AFRL solution. The distinctive accomplishments of Mr. Woodruff culminate a long and distinguished career with the United States government and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. You may be seated. We now continue with the presentation of the retirement certificate. Certificate of Service. This is to recognize Mr. John C. Woodruff for 34 years of faithful and devoted federal civilian service on the occasion of retirement from employment with the United States Air Force. Signed, Fred E. Garcia II, Colonel, U.S. Air Force Directorate, Information Directorate, Air Force Research Laboratory. We will now make the presentation of the United States flag. The flag box plate reads, John C. Woodruff, 1 June 1987 to 1 July 2021. The accompanying flag was flown over the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., and the Naval Undersea Warfare Center in Newport, Rhode Island, where John worked for 17 years of his service, and here at the Rome Research Site on 14 June 2021, Flag Day, in honor of your 34 years of faithful and dedicated service to the United States Air Force, the United States Navy, and our great nation. Would Kathy Woodruff please come forward and join your husband? At this time, Kathy will place the retirement pin on John's lapel. It's fitting that we also honor Kathy Woodruff. Certificate of Appreciation for the United States Air Force. In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Kathryn G. Woodruff for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Signed, Fred E. Garcia II, Colonel, United States Air Force, Director, Information Directorate, Air Force Research Laboratory. Kathy, we also have a small gift for you. We'd like to present you with a bouquet of flowers in grateful appreciation from the men and women of the Information Directorate. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now offer a tribute to Mr. Woodruff and the flag of the United States. Please remain seated and draw your attention to our retirement ceremony flag detail as they bring forward our nation's flag. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor, white signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words of the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy, a Rome, New York native, to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on the U.S. Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on land, in the skies, around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and serve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Mr. Woodruff, we offer this flag into your care. Accept it, protect it, and always remember the men and women who freely gave their lives to keep it flying. Ladies and gentlemen, the retired Mr. John Woodruff. John is now retired.
I think I've worked too long with Ryan. After what he said, you're going to see a lot of similarities with what I have to say here, but we didn't collaborate at all on the two speeches. Good afternoon. Thank you, Ray, Eileen, Dave, Jim, Ryan, and everyone else that put together this incredible ceremony today. And thank you all for coming, for joining via Zoom. The time has come to ride off into the sunset. After 34 years of government service as a Navy and Air Force civilian, starting with the Naval Undersea Warfare Center in June of 1987, the Air Force Research Lab in June 2004, I've had the honor of DoD service for my entire professional life. 17 years with the Navy, 17 years with the Air Force. June appears to be the month for major career changes. So I decided earlier this year that June 30th will be my final day. It coincidentally falls during the peak of golf season too. There's an old saying that goes something like this: the days are long, but the years are short. I think whoever originally said it applied to parenthood, but it certainly can apply to a career as well. It seems like yesterday when I started, and somehow those 34 years flew by. The years were truly short, despite a lot of long days. Since I joined AFRL, I've worked exclusively on cross-domain projects, even though I had no idea where cross-domain was when I arrived here. Programs were ISSI, then DTW, Dota's Trusted Workstation, or I think more accurately, Durante's Trusted Workstation, Sabre, and finally Secure View for the last 10 years. Cross-domain is such a challenging field and getting tougher by the day. It's been very rewarding, but now it's time to turn it over to Eileen Goodell. I remember clearly, it's hilarious that you said what you did. I remember clearly back in 2009 when I took over a program called DTW from Ryan. He told me the program had no money and your primary customer hates us. But good luck. Eileen, we need to talk. Just kidding, it's not quite that bad. Shortly after I took over DTW from Ryan, I changed the name of the program to Sabre. So Eileen, a bit of advice: if things get too tough with Secure View, just change the name. It takes everyone at least a couple of years to figure it out. Seriously, I'm so thankful I have someone as great as Eileen to turn Secure View over to. I know the program has many challenges as I leave, but I know it's in great hands. I need to recognize some very special people that enabled me to have this career. At times like this, people often say, I wouldn't be here today without certain people. Well, I can honestly say I wouldn't be here without two very special people, my parents, Larry and Janice Woodruff. They couldn't be here in person, but I hope they're listening via Zoom. They not only made it possible for me to be here in the obvious way, but they provided an example of what can be accomplished with extremely hard work. Growing up on a large dairy farm in Copenhagen, New York, I saw their incredible work ethic each and every day. That hard work and those long days of my youth inspired me in many ways, most notably to get a good education. I think that work ethic instilled in me by my parents served me well. No matter how hard it got during my career, it was a piece of cake compared to what I saw during my upbringing. I also need to recognize 3 special people that supported me throughout my career. Many thanks to my wife, Kathryn, son, Alexander, and daughter, Celia, for all your support and putting up with all that travel. I'm sure it wasn't easy, especially when the kids were young. Of course, after the last 16 months of having me home each and every day, every minute, all day long, while teleworking during COVID, sending me on travel doesn't seem so bad, does it? Speaking of travel, I'm so thankful for the opportunities I've had at AFRL. The travel was beyond my wildest imagination. Too much to Washington, D.C., but more than offset to trips to places such as Hawaii, London, Germany, Barcelona, and even Australia. And I was even able to take my family on some of those trips, most notably to Hawaii for our 20th anniversary. That actually kept me out of the doghouse for a few days. The travel was great, but the best part about my time at AFRL was the people I got to work with and meet. I've had the honor and privilege of representing AFRL to people as high-ranking as the Secretary of the Air Force and 4-star generals. But the real honor was working each and every day with incredible people of the Information Directorate and RIEB. I was surrounded by brilliant people driven by a desire to deliver capabilities to the warfighters. I can't begin to recognize all the people that made a huge difference for me in AFRL, but I'd like to identify 3 and give them a special thank you. Tim Farrell, is Tim here? Tim Farrell was my first PM at AFRL, who taught me so much about cross domain. Ryan Durante, as he mentioned, I took over 2 of his programs, and he has been my supervisor for many years. He is a great mentor who really taught me the importance of supporting the mission. Failure is not an option, is a famous saying Ryan conveys to us. Finally, Ray Galavati. I met Ray in 1990 while we were both with the Navy. Over the years, we've been coworkers. Ray has worked for me, and until a few minutes ago, I worked for Ray. All the time, he's remained a close friend. As program manager, excuse me, as program manager, I had several young Air Force officers assigned to my program over the years. Each and every one of them were incredible. They are representative of all Air Force junior officers, then the future of the Air Force is in great hands. Best part of my job was mentoring and seeing the growth in these talented people. Worst part of my job when they left to transfer to their next assignment. Thank you so much to Captain Brian Regulinski, Captain Scott Hall, Captain Heidi Lovejoy, Lieutenant Bogdan Anyu, Lieutenant David Gardner, Captain Osbert Zhao, Captain Alex Gwynn, Captain Caitlin Ryan, who's now a major, Captain Linnea Hance, and Lieutenant Bailey LaFaro, who did a great job. Finally, I need to recognize and thank all those great people on the Secure Review program that have made me look good for the last 10 years. I often tell them that making me look good is a narrow and impossible job. The Secure Review program has had a lot of success, and as PM, I often got way too much credit. But you are the ones that made this program so successful. No other group could do what you do each and every day. Now you have a new task for the next 10 years. Make Eileen as successful as you have made me. This whole COVID thing has really changed the final 16 months of my service. Not something I would have ever imagined. I got to be honest though, I did not miss that commute from Fayetteville. I tried to use COVID as an excuse to discreetly ride off into the sunset, but Ray convinced me to have this formal retirement. And it does seem really nice to be able to gather in groups again. I will dearly miss my coworkers at AFRL and the sense of accomplishment that comes with giving our war fighters the tools they need. Thank you and best wishes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please remain standing for the departure of the official party. You're invited to offer congratulations and best wishes to Mr. Woodruff in the lobby. On behalf of Mr. Woodruff and his family, thank you for attending.